And Sherrel.
Sherrel is our passion for food columnist for the Oklahoman, and we're doing kind of a series of videos talking about wonderful meals that you can have in the summer using fresh vegetables.
Using lots of fresh vegetables.
Obviously very good for you. A lot of people think of soup in the winter, but this is a summer soup.
This is kind of a summertime soup because basically I'm using a lot of things that come from the farmer's market and the garden.
Nice.
And even our grocery stores are full of the bounty of summer, so it's nice.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I think of this simple soup, and it's so
Right.
easy to do. And if you want a little bit of a hot meal in the evening or a semi-hot meal in the evening, it's perfect to do. So we're going to start with a little quick saute, some olive oil in the pan, and then we're going to, of course, add onions, the wonderful thing that flavors so many of our foods. And then we'll add some peppers. This adds color and nice lycopene, especially the red ones.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I'm going to also put a little bit of green pepper in it. This is some I had from earlier. And of course, this is a leek, which is also a wonderful flavor maker. And this is very good for you. It has some nutrients in it that we don't get just from a plain onion. And then, of course, carrots. And these are from the farmer's market. They had several different varieties of carrots. And while these look like parsnips, they're actually carrots. And, of course, they're so good for us. Perfect. And so we're going to let that just sort of saute. One of the things that I'm going to do and I'll have ready is Swiss chard, and I just picked this out of my garden. And I like to separate the leaf from the stem because the stems take a little longer to cook.
Oh, okay.
So the leaves I'm going to add at the last minute, but I'm going to go ahead and put the stems in with the saute.
Very nice.
So they cook.
Okay, so we're going to just let this.
We'll let this saute.
So you're adding the broth now.
I'm adding the broth now, and our vegetables have kind of caramelized, which will give the soup even a lot more flavor.
Okay.
And then I'm going to also add my yellow squash and my zucchini. And let this simmer down. I'm going to add my leaves of the Swiss chard now. Kind of stir this around.
Wow. This is definitely a great summer soup.
And then we'll just put our lid back on and let that kind of heat all the way up. And you know, squash cooks so quickly that we don't need much. But the other thing that I like to add, and this to me makes it a little bit sort of an Italian style summer soup, I'm going to add some cannellini beans to it.
Very nice.
And these are just some that were in a can that I drained. And this is a wonderful vegetable full of nutrients. It's called kale. And I just took the kale leaf and pulled these little ruffles away from the stem.
And it is pretty good.
And you can, yes, it's delicious. And we'll stir that around. And I pre-steamed the kale just a little bit. So all of this works together. So you can see already we're getting a very pretty soup.
Yeah. Okay, look at this soup. It looks so good.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And remember a few weeks back I showed our
Cilantro
readers
pesto.
how to do cilantro pesto. And I have some of that I've done already.
Okay.
There are a couple of ways to do it. One is you can put the chilled or frozen piece of pesto in the center of the bowl at the end of the cooking.
Sure.
And just stir it in.
Okay.
And in this pot of soup, we're going to have about 4
That smells good.
tablespoons, generous tablespoons of pesto.
Yeah.
So that just makes the soup.
To make that, just look back at the video cilantro pesto.
Yes. And you could pretend you're in France because they make
Yes.
a vegetable soup au pesto.
So
au pisto.
just stir this in and
Yes. And so then we just ladle it up. And we've
There
got
we
our
go.
green beans, our Swiss chard, and you know, what's better than that? A nice bowl of vegetables.
Very
And of course,
nice.
you can sort of let your spoon travel over into the pesto and get even more.
Yeah, Yeah.
But it's a great dish.
Very nice.
And you could let it even cool slightly. It's good if it's medium warm instead of piping hot in the summer.
Especially for the summer, definitely.
Yeah, and
this
so
looks fabulous.
Yeah,
for
and
this recipe, just check out the Oklahoman in
Perfect.
the Life section and Sherrel Jones' Passion for Food column. She will have this wonderful recipe and a lot of these vegetables. I bet you can find at the farmers market. So
you can,
there
and
you go.
probably some great watermelon to
There
go
we
along
go.
with it.
Yeah, really. Thank you so much.